Hello everyone! If you're here, it is because you want to know how to port mechs from MechWarrior Online into Battletech. This is taking a mech model, your favorite mech model, from MechWarrior Online, and we're going to be transposing it onto an existing skeleton from the Battletech game. A couple of things that you're going to need. You're going to need Unity Asset Studio. Just there. You're going to need 3D Studio Max. You're going to need Unity 5.6.6 Fix 2. This is very important. This is the version of Unity that the game was created in, so this is the one that works best. When I initially started doing this, I was using Unity 2017, ran into problems, updated to Unity 2019, also ran into problems, came back to 5.6.6, and absolutely no issues since. You're going to need Unity Asset Bundle Extractor. A couple other things that are not here on the desktop. You're going to need GIMP or Studio Max or whatever your photo editing software of choice is, and you will also need Cryengine Converter and Cryengine Importer. I will put links to all of these in the description for the video. Now I am going to assume here that you have used Cryengine Importer and Cryengine Converter in past model making for Battletech. I know many of you that are watching this have done this before, so if not, there will be a link on how to use those in the description as well. Alright, so let's get started. Today I'm going to be doing a rehash of my original Hellbringer. My original Hellbringer was done the very old way and does not show up in the mech lab. So what we want is this mech to show up in the mech lab. Now I have already used Cryengine Converter on the Hellbringer file, so all I have to do at this point, open Blender, go away. I like to clear out all of the items, and you do that by hitting A to select everything on, and then delete and enter, and that gets rid of everything. From there, if you have the Cryengine importer for Blender, you can simply click Import, Import Mech, and then you navigate to whatever folder you have those saved to. For me, is the E drive into Depot. My Depot folder is split into Battletech assets, MWO assets, and also reference mechs. The reference mechs I'll get into here in a little bit, but these are the skeletons that I am skinning the meshes to. You'll see a little bit more of that here later. MWO objects, mechs, and we are going for the Hellbringer. Where are you, Hellbringer? There you are. So you simply click on the CDF, click Import Mech, let the Cryengine importer do its thing. And lo and behold, we have Hellbringer feet. Alright. Used to max, so remember the controls for, there we go. So if you've used Cryengine Converter, you get everything with the mech. You get the armature, you get all the textures, everything comes in. If you've imported it without using Cryengine Importer, it will probably come in without textures and look something like this. I like it with the textures. We're not going to do a whole lot of manipulation with the model here in Blender at this point. One thing that I will do though is I like to look at the current pose versus the rest pose. And how you get to that is down here in pose mode. You can set this to pose mode. So there's pose mode, edit mode, object mode. I go to pose mode. Then once you go to pose mode, click on the little character up here that gives you the armature data. And then you can look at the rest position or the pose position. For this particular mech, they're not that much different, so I'm going to leave it in the pose position. Once that's done, I have to go to object mode. When I go to object mode, I hit A. That selects everything. It's everything on this layer. Now I want to take and I want to export all of this. And I want to export it to FBX file format. It is important that you hit selected objects at this point. Right now, I am not exporting the weapons. I am just exporting the base body parts. You'll get the armature as well, but we'll end up getting rid of that here soon. But I want the armature and I want the meshes. So when I import those into 3D Studio Max, they are where they're supposed to be instead of in a big pile in the center of the floor. So I will name this Hellbringer Base and export to FBX. Alright, now that that's done, this is where Asset Studio comes in. So I go to Unity Asset Studio. I'm going to select Load File. Now I'm going to find the asset bundle for the mech that I want to transpose the Hellbringer onto. In this particular case, it is going to be the Orion. Let's see here. So I am going to go ahead and try the Orion asset bundle from 1.3. Now that that's loaded, I go up here and click the little plus, look on the cab file. You go down until you find the 001 prefab, the base prefab. So CHRPRF mech _ Orion base TAC 001. I'm going to go to Model. I'm going to export selected objects. I will actually take this and put it into 3D Studio Max has a folder in Documents. Inside that folder is another folder called Import and Export. Those two are going to be important. So I will take this and I will save this file into Import. And we will name it CHRPRF mech Orion base TAC 001. Yeah, forgot about that. You select a folder here, not give it a file name. So I want to go to Import, Create New Folder, Orion. The other place, why am I doing this here? I'm going to delete that. Where I normally keep this is Depot under Reference Max. New folder, Orion. That way I don't have to continue to export this over and over and over. Once I'm done, I can just go and grab it out of here. Select the folder, and it is now exporting. Now that it is done exporting, right here, now that it's done exporting, we move on to 3D Studio Max. So this is where the bulk of the work is done. I used to merge files in Blender and then port them over to 3D Studio Max. And then I learned that it is much, much easier to do in Studio Max. I find Max to be a much more powerful tool than Blender when it comes to modifying, and for me anyway, it's easier to use. So as soon as our default loads up here, there we are. So first thing that I want to import. See, when you click import, it automatically goes to this import folder. That's why I was going to put it there initially, but I think I prefer it where the reference mechs are. And go to Orion, game object, and here it is. Now, there are some important things when importing. So, main thing here is the scale factor. Scale factor needs to be in meters. It will tell you up here that it's in centimeters. Yeah, doesn't really matter. But you want it in meters. Meters is what the Battletech game works in. So we're going to convert both this and our other ones to meters when we come in. There's a big difference in scale, so we're going to have to scale the MWO mech when it comes in, but we will do that when it comes in. So, waiting for the mech to import. Alright, so you are going to get some errors. The bind pose error and the skin modifiers error. We're not worried about those. They will not cause you issues. You'll get errors on export as well that also will not affect you. So one of the things you'll find out is if you zoom in to take a look, your mech disappears when you zoom in to a certain point. So how I get around this is just push U on the keyboard. That changes you from perspective to orthographic view, and then that will allow you to zoom all the way in on your mech. Now you get a lot of parts here, and you notice that none of it is textured, but that is okay. With the entire thing still selected, just take and drag one of your materials and apply it. You can apply it to everything at once, so that makes it quick and easy. And what I hit to pull that up was the material editor, which is right here. So it pulls up the material editor. You just drag and drop, the whole thing is selected. If for some reason you clicked off of it and deselected everything, like I just did, just select the name here and then select children, and that will again select everything. So I initially get rid of quite a few things here. Here you get the entire mech, so it's broken down into the blip objects. These are the two objects that you see in the game prior to actually having a visual on the mech. So that's this one, which is just the little red cone, I guess, that shows up. And then this one, I'll move it, which is the little red mech icon once your sensors have identified it as a mech. We don't need those. We don't care about those. So I'm going to select both of them. I'm going to select children and press delete. And those are gone. Next, you get the skeleton. This is important. Don't delete anything underneath of JRoot. And next you get the meshes. And this is where your meshes are going to end up living. Because I'm not doing damage meshes right now, I actually go through and I get rid of all the damage meshes just because it cleans it up and it makes it a whole lot easier to work with. So again, select each of your headings ending in damage, and then select children and delete. So now you are left with just the mechs. So what I've done here is I select mesh, I select children, I go to display, and I expand selected, and that opens everything up. So I can see, to deselect everything, I just kind of click off. Anything with a circle here, this is your actual mesh. For whatever it is that you imported, it's also going to end in 0 or 1. So you notice the Orion here actually has a 2-piece forearm. So you get left arm, forearm, tack 1, which is actually the elbow, but there's no bone for the elbow. So they did both of them to the forearm. Alright, so the Orion is pretty much ready for the import of our next mech, which is what we are going to place over top of it, which is the Hellbringer. So now I'm going to import and go to Depot, MechWarrior Online, mechs, Hellbringer, and there is our Hellbringer base FBX that we exported from Blender. Now again, make sure that your file units are converted to meters. Now when this exports, it is going to be noticeably larger. So that down there is my Orion. That is my Hellbringer. It is also going to be facing 180 degrees in the wrong direction. So to fix that, select the rotation tool, come down here and switch to absolute transform mode. Go to the Z-axis, type in 180. That turns the mech around 180 degrees. Next, we are going to go to Scale. We're going to ensure that the offset transform mode is still in, and under the X, we're going to type 1. So now, our mechs are the same scale. Now I'm going to go to Move, move it down into position. One of the things I like about the zoom tool with 3D Studio Max is it zooms to wherever your cursor is. So if my cursor's on the head, it's going to zoom in the head. If my cursor's in the feet, it's going to zoom in on the feet. I like that. Some of the other controls with 3D Studio Max, mouse wheel. So if I hold my mouse wheel back and forth, that kind of pans. And then if I hold Alt in my mouse wheel, that gives me my rotation. So what I want to do is I want to rotate out, slide my Hellbringer up, now where I match these, and you'll notice with the Orion there is a noticeable gap between the lower and upper body. We are going to have to do this with the Hellbringer as well, but we'll get to that part. So with the Hellbringer, there's a lot of extra stuff in here that we don't need. We have the whole armature is there. All we really want is the meshes. So you might ask yourself, how do I get rid of those? Fastest way I have found to get rid of those is up here in the search, type in BIP. That gives you the entire armature. So I will select all the pieces of the armature. At this point, I repeat, I am not selecting all the children. I just want to delete the top level of all the armature pieces. Once that's done, click Remove Filter. And that shows you that all the stuff that was underneath the armature has now been moved out. The second thing that I am going to select is the cockpit. And I'm going to do the same thing I just did. I'm going to delete the cockpit, which is going to get rid of everything else. Alright, I am at this point going to collapse everything. There we go. So that's up here in display, collapse all. And I'm going to get rid of all the stuff that I don't need. So starting with the bolt-ons. These are the bolt-ons from MWO. It's not the actual bolt-ons, it's just the reference points for them. I wish it was the actual bolt-ons because, well, yeah, spikes on pirate mechs would be awesome. So I will go through and select all the things that I want to get rid of. So I want to keep whatever your base prefab is. It's the one that has your J-root and your mesh underneath of it. Those are going to be kept. All the meshes that I want, so I can get rid of, let's say, the left torso FX, right arm FX. I can get rid of all the FX parts. I don't need those. Case, I don't need. However, all of our main body parts we're going to hold on to. There's case, FX, and then any of your IKRs, targets. Now if there's an arrow next to this, next to the eyeball here, that means there are children underneath. Damn it. That's another great thing about mechs. So if I click off and deselect everything, Control Z, which is undo, will go right back and select everything else again. That's the other thing I do not need. I don't need our character file. That is from the original import. So again, I will select children. I will hit delete. Now I am left with just parts and the Orion prefab. Alright, so let's, select the pelvis for the Orion, because that's kind of where I want to base everything off of. To select the entire Hellbringer, select the top, hold shift, select the bottom. I can now move everything around. Where I try to line these up is right across the hips. So the great thing about this is I can actually take the Orion mesh, I can select everything, I can expand it all, and I can hide everything that I don't want to see. So what do I want to see? I want to see the Orion pelvis and the Orion pelvis rear. That also allows us to see where the actual hip bones are. So right there is where your hip bone is. So the next thing that I want to do, because I want the Hellbringer pelvis, Actually, let's get rid of those. Let's turn the entire Hellbringer off. Deselect all the Hellbringer parts. Turn on just front and rear Hellbringer pelvis. After that, we're going to select the entire Hellbringer. Now we can see the pelvis, but we are moving the entire thing. That is important. So now I can take and I can line this up exactly where I need it to be. Alright, needs to come up. What I am looking for is I am looking for two things. I want this spine piece coming up right here to be right in the center of the twist. I will get that as close as I can get it to center. It's kind of hard to see at some points, so I got to kind of spin around. And the other thing that I want, as far as high-low, is I want the hip bones coming out of the center of the hip sockets. Oh, that's much better. I can see. Maybe up a touch more. Making this adjustment is going to help you determine the closer you are to getting this adjustment squared, because the hip is the root of the entire thing. The less adjustments that you're going to have to make. Once you get into mission, that is. So if you end up, let's say, if you end up with the spine coming out of the back of where the twist plate is, when you actually load into mission, the upper body is going to be shifted back behind the pelvis. So if you put it in the center, then your upper body will be centered on the pelvis. Alright, so we are done with this portion. Let's go ahead and turn the rest of the Hellbringer back on. And we are going to take the Orion's upper body. So let's see, go torsos and center torso rear, center torso, and a cockpit. So now that we have the Orion's upper body put back in there, I'm going to go back to the Hellbringer, and I'm going to just select the Hellbringer's upper body as well. To do that, just hold Control. You can select all the separate pieces you need. I want the cockpit, I want left and right, torso, rear. I also want to grab the arms as well, because I am moving the entire upper body. So at this point, you are probably going to have to make some adjustments to the upper body one way or another. So we will find out what adjustments we have to make after we've exported it, pulled it into Unity, and put it onto Solama Joe's Unity project, which is amazing for helping get this done. Thank you for that, Solama Joe. I hope you're watching. Alright, so at this point, I am going to take and I'm going to create a group. I'm going to call it upper body. So what this allows me to do now is this allows me to quickly, so right now I'm selected a lathe part. select the entire upper body. I will remove the arms from that, and I'll create another group called torso. This will come in handy later when it comes to skinning. So you just click skin. All these parts that I currently have selected skin to the same bone. So that will be stream alert. That will be useful here in a bit. So now what I'm doing is I am going to take the Hellbringer's upper body and I'm going to slide it up. I'm going to slide it up until the bottom of it is even with the bottom plate on the with the bottom plate on the Orion. Words are hard today. Alright. Alright, so that seems about correct. What that should do is that should get all of our parts aligned correctly when we import into the Unity editor. Okay, so that is all done. The other thing that I do at this point is I compare parts. So one of the things that I look for is a twist. Do both mechs have a twist? They do. Sometimes they do not. The other thing I look for is, do both mechs have hips? In this particular case, the answer is yes. Let's see, you do not have an elbow. Looking to see what the Orion has. So, calf, foot. One of the things that you will find that almost never, ever, ever matches up are the toes. So here we have Talon 1 and toe 0 for the Orion. However, we have Talon 0, toe 0. Imagine that. This one actually matches up. When you start getting into some of the other clan mechs, like the Stormcrow, anything that has multiple toes, yeah, they don't match up, ever. So what I've done, it also helps me minimize the amount of meshes that I have to port over, is I join them. So instead of having to position each toe, I just take the whole foot. So how you do that is you select foot, you come over here, make sure that you are under the Modify tab and under Editable Mesh. Later we will have more modifiers under this list. So come here to Editable Mesh, you click Attach. And then you just click on the parts that you want to attach. So in this particular case, I want to attach the toe and the talon. Now it is all one piece. Unlike doing this in Blender, there is no need to adjust the UV so that the textures cover it all. When doing this in Blender, the two pieces that I just attached would have been solid gray and not had any textures to it. By doing it in 3D Studio Max, don't have to worry about that, just click Attach. Now, when you're done, make sure that Attach is deselected, otherwise the next thing you click on will also be attached. Alright, so I want to go and I want to do that for the other foot. Talon and toe. Turn off Attach. So now we have dumbed our leg down to 4 parts: calf, foot, hip, thigh. When you're dealing with things that have segmented toes, like a lot of them will have an index, and it'll be a two-piece index finger, so, or index toe, whatever you want to call it. But so you'll have index 1, index 2, you'll have pinky 1, pinky 2, and then you'll have talon 1 and talon 2, and then talon pinky 1 and talon pinky 2. It makes the parts that you have to port over, it just makes it way more of a pain in the butt. And adjusting the toes in game, because even skinning them to the feet, or skinning them to the proper bone, I have rarely been able to get them to show up properly. By joining them all and just skinning the foot to the foot bone, I've yet to have an issue with it. So, time for a coffee break. There we go. Alright, now that the feet are joined together, and our upper body is positioned approximately where it needs to be, our hips are positioned where they need to be, we can go ahead and get rid of the Orion meshes. So I'm going to do that by typing in on1 underscore star underscore 0. What did I do wrong? Because I should be seeing all the meshes. on1. No, I don't have anything selected. So let me select Orion base. on1 underscore star underscore 0. Let me see. Find using wildcards is not turned on. Okay, so under select, there's an option here called find using wildcards. Make sure that's on, because that's all. I use the star wildcard, and what that does is that brings up all of our meshes. So we can go through and select them. Just hold Control and click. Don't get ahead of yourself. There we are. Damn it, now I gotta go through and do this all over again. Get ahead of yourself, you'll end up dragging and dropping, so, and you'll see that later, because we're going to drag and drop all the Hellbringer parts up into the whole mesh structure to replace the Orion parts. So let me clear this. Let's turn my Orion back on first. There we go. So, on1 underscore star underscore 0. That's not 0. That's 0. Very calmly and carefully select all of the things ending in 0. And delete. Now, because I know this mech has them, I'm also going to grab the ones ending in 1, and I did it again. There we are. And delete those as well. Now we notice it's all gone. It's beautiful. Alright, I am going to make a shortcut here. I have a text message that I need to respond to, and then we will continue on.